So I just pitched a big corporate client to secure a 6-figure contract, and I want to walk you through how that pitch went so you can prepare your pitches and set yourself up for success going forward. So this is a really great live for anybody who is a new entrepreneur, who is thinking about entrepreneurship and trying to learn the game on how do you make big institutions your clients, right? How do you secure corporate contracts? How do you secure contracts from government agencies? And let me tell you something, there's a lot of money out here for you, okay? So as I said, this is a great conversation for current entrepreneurs, for people who are thinking about entrepreneurship and you're kind of not clear on like how exactly you're gonna make some money and what's the easiest way for you to make money. This is what this conversation is going to be about. Let me get this lighting together so we can have it all set and ready to go. So I just literally got off the phone with a potential corporate client, and I want to walk you through the steps that I use to pitch this client. So the first thing I want to share with you guys, and I want to write this down because I want to make sure that I cover everything and I don't miss anything for you guys. And I'm looking for a notepad. All right, here we go. So I want to walk you through the steps that I go through when pitching a client. So the first step, here we go. So the first step is really getting clear and understanding who your target market is. Who is your targeted client? Who do you want to work with? What industry are they in? What is their market cap? What type of clients do they serve, right? And this is a great strategy, especially if you are offering something that is super, super niche. You want to make sure that you are targeting people that actually are ready to buy or in a position to buy. You don't want to waste your time with people who are thinking about buying. You don't want to waste your time with people who possibly might have this problem that you can solve for. You want to get straight to it, honey, right? So you want to go straight to the source. So first you have to do research. Let me write this down. First, you have to do research and figure out who your target client is. So that's numero uno. And I know this is not new. This is not new news. You probably have heard this before. But what you haven't heard before is what happens if you don't. What happens if you don't do your research and you don't get really specific about who your target client is? What happens if you don't? And I'm going to tell you what happens. If you choose not to do your research and really target and only speak to organizations that have the problem that you are best positioned to solve, what will happen is you will, of course, waste your time. That's numero uno. Numero dos, you're going to get super frustrated with the process because you're going to find that you're talking to people who are not ready to buy. And the whole purpose of you pitching is you're pitching to people who are in a position to buy, meaning they have the budget, it's an urgent problem for them, and you are the person that is going to solve it, right? People do not pay for products and services, they pay for solutions. Let me say that again. People do not pay for products and services, they pay for solutions. And so you want to make sure that you are speaking to people that have this crazy urgent problem and you have the solution for them, right? Because that is how they are going to actually pay you, right? These 5 to 6 figure contracts. So that's step number 1. Step number 2 is after you've done your research and you've gotten really clear on who your target market is, you're going to reach out to them. Right? You're going to reach out to them. Now, by reaching out means that you are going to reach out to them on LinkedIn. You're going to figure out who's the key decision maker that you need to talk to. So let's use me as an example. Right now, what I am pitching to corporate clients is I have a curated experience that hones in on mental and emotional wellness. If you guys don't know, mental and emotional wellness is priority right now for organizations because of the Great Resignation, because talent is leaving, because talent has crazy options right now that they've never had before, right? Organizations are suffering in terms of being able to attract, retain, and most importantly, develop their talent in this new world that we live in with a real focus on mental and emotional wellness, right? So that's what I focus on. So the key people that I know have a budget and are decision makers around this type of programming to bring me in, right, are heads of HR, heads of marketing, heads of diversity and inclusion, heads of talent, and heads of learning and development. So that's 5 people that I've identified that are decision makers that have budgets. And those are the only people that I want to talk to. Those are the only people that I want to talk to. All right. And just so you guys know, I just launched a free training. You can access it here at victoriajen.com/training or go to the link in my bio here on Instagram. And you'll see that I put together an entire strategy giving you my 3 secrets on how to transition from corporate to entrepreneur. But also I break down details on how to secure these 5 to 6 figure contracts, how to sell to corporate clients, how to sell to government agencies. So that training is perfect for new and aspiring entrepreneurs. All right. Just wanted to put that out there. So back to the 5 people that I've identified, right? So I've identified 5 people who I know have a budget and who I know are decision makers. Those are the only people that I want to talk to. I don't really want to talk to anybody else unless it's the person that directly sits under the decision maker, because I might need to go to them first to get to the actual decision maker, right? So this is all a strategy. So that's step number 2. Step number 3, when you're pitching, is when you get them on a phone, right? You reached out, they said, yes, I'm interested, I want to learn more. The 3rd step is you need to prepare for the actual pitch. Now, it's a mindset shift here that I'm going to challenge you guys on. Usually everybody, when they first talk to somebody who potentially can be a client, and I speak about this because I used to be this person. I used to be the person that is like, I got to close, right? I got to close on this call. This is the call that I'm going to close on. I just want to talk to them once. And the world has changed, right? In terms of sales, right? Back in the day, you might have been able to get away with that, where you're able to close somebody immediately on the first call. Now, things have shifted where you have to think about a pitching call as you just throwing out bait and waiting for them to bite on the bait. It's not a closing call, right? So you're just throwing out the bait and you're waiting for them to chip and bite on that bait. Because once they bite or even nibble on the bait, that brings you one step closer to closing, right? To actually getting the business. And so once you get these people on the phone, right? After you've done your research, after you've reached out and you get them on the phone, you have to understand that the conversation is not meant to close. The conversation is to build awareness, is to gain interest, is to get people excited about what it is that you are working on. And your job in that call is to speak to their pain points, right? Speak to their pain points. Let me write this down. Not a closing call. And you want to speak to their pain points, right? On the call. Because when you do that, it makes them pay attention. And so the conversation that you're having, you're doing more listening than talking, right? Because it's not you trying to close. It's you trying to get as much information from them as possible so you can use that information to close. Make sense? So on my call that I had earlier today, right before this live, I was asking them a lot of questions. I asked them what are their goals over the next 6 months. I asked them what are their pain points? What are their biggest challenges? I asked them this question, and you guys are welcome to use this question. This is a great question that I use to really get an understanding of what people's goals and priorities are. And the question is, if you had a magic wand, what would you want to see happen over the next 6 months? Now, this question is super helpful because first of all, it makes them think and they're like, oh, wow, that's a really great question. Let me really think about that. So it forces them to focus on urgency, which is what you want to speak to. You want to speak to urgency, right? Because you want people to write you a check ASAP. And the only things that they write a check to ASAP are things that are urgent, are things that they need solutions for, like ASAP. That's what you want to hone in on. So that's what that question does, right? The question really makes them think about, what do I need to accomplish over the next 6 months? So the question again is, you're going to ask them, if you had a magic wand, what would you want to see happen over the next 6 months? Because that is going to give you intel that you can use to close, right? Because they're going to tell you their pain points by answering that question, right? Because they're going to be solving for pain points. So that's what you want to hone in on, all right? So that's step number 3. Step number 4 is what happens after the call, right? So you got them on the call. You understand that that's not a closing call. It's an opportunity for you to build awareness. It's an opportunity for you to get a better understanding of what their pain points are. Now that you know what their pain points are, you're going to speak to the solutions that you are able to provide for those pain points. Remember, people don't buy products and services. They buy solutions, right? So that's what you're going to focus on. You're going to focus on the solutions. So you're going to make sure to reiterate those solutions in the conversation. After the conversation, actually, no, I want to tell you guys this. Before that conversation ends, you need to be clear on what next steps are, and there need to be actions attached to those next steps. It can't be, oh, I look forward to talking to you more about this. No. That's not a win. Nope. You want actionable next steps, right? And because this is not a closing call, it doesn't mean the actionable next step is that they're going to write you a check. The actionable next step is, and I'll share a real life example from the call I just had. The actionable next step was to get me in their vendor process. So just so you guys know, whenever you want to work with a corporate organization or a government agency, each of them has a vendor process that anybody that they work through has to go through. And because usually these processes take a long time, usually about on average 2 months, you want to get that process up and going because you don't want that to be a barrier to you working together, right? So the vendor process basically is you submitting your information as a vendor, your W-9, your EIN number, so that they can start putting you through the process. And what they're checking for is to make sure that you're legit, make sure that, you don't have any indictments against your company, make sure you're really in business. They're going to do a background check on you as the owner, right? And that usually on average takes 2 months. So you want to be ready for that. So that was one of the actionable items that came out of my conversation today was let's start getting me through the vendor process so that when we're ready to hit go, we don't have that preventing us from doing that. And that's an actionable next step, right? So on this call, they weren't ready to close right away because they still need to do some internal thinking. And that's okay. I want to be in those conversations when they're doing the internal thinking, but let's have an actionable next step, which is get me through the vendor process. Because once I'm in the vendor process, that means that I can do business with anybody in the organization. So it just doesn't need to be who I was speaking to today. Once I'm approved as a vendor, I can talk to anybody. Right? I can talk to anybody, which is what you want. So after you get off the call, you want to make sure there's actionable next steps. Another example of an actionable next step is setting up a follow-up meeting, getting it on calendar, right? Getting it on calendar. Say, let's do this right now. You can do it live while you're on the call on calendar because people get busy and their email boxes are insane. And you don't want to get lost in the cause, right? You want this to be priority because you're providing solutions, right? And you've already set the tone that this is an urgency for them, right? So you want to make it clear that you want to have actionable next steps, right? So that's another example of an actionable next step. To give you guys another example of what could be an actionable next step, in your follow-up email, you can provide them any data that you have that speaks to that urgency that they shared with you when you asked them that question, right? Of in the next 6 months, if you had a magic wand, what would you want? You can send that up to showcase your credibility, right? You can send that to showcase your credibility and to showcase hey, this is something you want to move on right away because these are the type of clients that I'm working with, etc., etc. All right. So let me write that down. Actionable next steps. Now, between the meeting that you have and the close, there are a number of things that you're going to do to make sure that you keep that relationship warm and that you stay top of mind. And actually, before I go into that, I want to share a little bit of what should go into that pitch deck. And guys, you see here that I'm offering a free training. Watch this free training because I'm literally breaking it down on how to make the transition from corporate to entrepreneurship. And if you are a new entrepreneur, this is a great training for you because we talk about business operations. We talk about the new academy that I have, my Dare to Leap Academy, which is a learning portal for you guys to really wrap your head around what it takes to make a successful transition. So you no longer have to go back to your 9-to-5 and you can live in your truth and have the freedom and have the time flexibility and making money and all that stuff, right? It's a framework that literally positioned you for success, and you learn about it in this free training. The training is like 11 minutes, y'all. So please, I don't want to hear that you ain't got the time. Okay. So you can access here at www.victoriajen.com/training or go to the link in my bio. Okay. So let's talk about what should be in that pitch deck. Okay. Because it's important. So the pitch deck, what you want to include, and this is the deck that you're going to cite on the conversation, right? And my rule of thumb is I like to humanize my conversation. So I don't go immediately to presentation mode. I like to kind of ask people questions and get them to see me on a human level before I actually go to the deck, right? So that is advice that I would extend to you, is try to humanize the conversation before you go into presentation. And the reason why is because they have these conversations all the time, guys. They're getting pitched to all the freaking time. And you want to stand out. And the best way for you to stand out is to connect with folks on a personal, human level. Okay? So that's the first step. In the deck, you want to basically have data supporting whatever product or service you want to sell, right? So for example, for me, because I told you that I'm selling mental and emotional wellness programming, right? I had data that clearly states the state of urgency right now as to why organizations need to make their mental and emotional wellness for their employees a priority, right? And I have the stats, right? So I have a slide and I start the presentation with that slide because it sets the tone and it also showcases the urgency, right? This is all about urgency, right? And if you have data to support your urgency, you're positioning yourself for success. So the first slide in your pitch deck is all about urgency, the data supporting the business case that you're presenting, right? So the data that I present is data on the Great Resignation, how all these employees are leaving their jobs, how they are suffering emotionally, mentally, all of that data. I also include the data on the job-related costs, right? What are the costs associated with the product or service that you are providing that if they don't make it a priority, meaning if they don't invest in you, these are the costs that are associated with that investment, right? So for me, it's costing organizations $125 to $190 billion in job-related costs associated with mental and emotional despair. So that immediately right now, that number, they pay attention to that number, okay? So that's what you want them to do. You want them to pay attention to those numbers and really set the tone as the urgency and the need of what you are providing. So that is the first slide. The next slide after that is what is the solve? What is the solution that you are providing, right? What is the solution that you are providing? And that's what you're going to outline. You're going to outline the solution and any other supporting data that you have to showcase why that solution is necessary and why you're the best person to provide that solution. Which brings me to the next slide. The next slide after you provide the solution is you kind of giving them an intro into the product or service, right? Giving them a high level bird's eye view of what the product or service is, right? Following that slide, Then you go into your brag slide. Now, some of you might have heard me talk about the brag slide before. Some of you may have not, but the brag slide, actually, let me pull this up here so I can show you. A brag slide is basically a slide showcasing your credibility. And so my brag slide consists of all the organizations that I have worked with. And this is what it looks like. And let me show you guys here so you can see it. So this is my brag slide, right? So my brag slide has all these organizations that I've worked with. And I make sure to put this in the pitch deck because I want them to know that I'm serious about mine, okay? I got the credibility, okay? I've worked with your peers, okay? I've worked with the biggest marquee brands in the world, okay? And that's what you want to showcase, right? So you want to make sure that brag slide is included in the deck. After the brag slide, any press that has come out on you, you want to include that as well. So I have that here. Oh, actually, after the brag slide is this. Let me just show this to you guys. So I have some testimonials here in the deck. Then after testimonials, I have any press, right? Any press that you have come out in is what you want to do. Now, the reason why you are including that in there is because this is all about giving yourself credibility so that they see that you're not to mess with, right? So that they see that you really got it going on and you're the best person to provide the solution for them. All right. So let's get into the final step. How do you keep people warm from the time that you have your intro conversation to the time of the close? So the way that you keep them warm is you send them information that is helpful regarding the urgency that you guys covered. So for example, for me, I'm going to follow up with this potential client and I'm going to send them any new data reports that come out that correlate to mental and emotional wellness. Any new data reports that come out that really talk about development in the Black and Hispanic community. Any other, reports or data that comes out that speaks to that point. Any articles that I think would be of interest for them. Anything that I can help them with, right? You want to provide value. You want to serve. And you're doing this for free because this is going to land you this 5 to 6 figure contract, right? So you're doing this for free. You want to showcase that you care about their urgency. And the best way for you to do that is for you to show and share information that you think would be valuable to them. So that's how you keep them warm. Another way to keep them warm, the holidays are here. You're sending them notes, wishing them a happy holiday. Thank you so much for having conversations with me. I really look forward to what the future holds. Blessings and love and joy, right? Something for the holidays. Another thing you can do to keep them warm is you can send them any replays of webinars that you've hosted. You can send them any events that you've done so that they can see you in action, right? See you in action. I just hosted an executive roundtable for cross-industry executives on humanizing corporate culture. And I recorded it, put that bad boy on my YouTube, and now I literally send out the replay of that roundtable to all my potential clients so that they can see me in action and they can see me as an expert and they can see my pedigree. They see who I have connections with and relationships with, right? So they can see that, right? My best rule of thumb is work once and let it work for you until infinity. So by working once, meaning by hosting that roundtable, now it works for me until infinity because I can share that replay with everybody and anyone so that they can get insight into my style. It's also on YouTube, so it's open to the public. Anybody around the world can see the replay of this presentation and everything else that I have on that channel, right? So that's what you want to do. You want to start positioning yourself for success in that way by keeping people warm from the initial conversation that you have until the close. So document what you are doing. Make sure you keep the replays of any webinars that you're a part of, any speaking engagements, anything like that. And if you are thinking like, I don't have anything like that, then create it. For example, I created that executive roundtable. I was like, you know what? Let me bring them to me. Why I always got to go to them? Let me bring them to me. Let me host an event that speaks to them, that attracts decision makers. Let me bring them to me, right? And so that's exactly what I did. I got a dope ass panel. I marketed it like crazy. And now I had all these executives that were going to see me in action, right? By something I created. I didn't wait for somebody else to invite me to their table, right? I created the table and I decided who got to come sit at the table. You can do that too, especially in this virtual space. It's so easy for you to curate experiences that showcase your credibility and your expertise so that people look at you as somebody who is a leader in your space and can provide the solutions that they are looking for, right? Provide the solutions that they are looking for. Because again, people don't buy products. They don't buy services. They buy solutions. And so that's what you want to focus on, right? You want to focus on the solutions that you are providing. So let's do a recap of this summary of how you should pitch clients for the newbies that just joined. Step number 1, research. You want to understand who your target client is. You want to speak only to decision makers, people who have a budget, people who can write you a check. 2, after you've done that research, you want to reach out on LinkedIn, get their email address, reach out, be proactive in reaching out and request a meeting, requesting for them to learn more about the solution that you are providing. Next, it's a mindset shift. When you do get them on the call, understand that call is not for you to close. That call is for you to throw out some bait and have them bite on the bait. Have them nibble on the bait. Because once they do that, that means that they're interested in learning more and you get to cultivate that relationship, right? To get to your close, okay? Next, before you end that meeting, when you get them on the phone, you want to have actionable next steps. Actionable next steps. Not, I'll find another time for you to talk to you when we're ready to revisit. No. Actionable next steps. Do I need to be in your vendor process? When can we schedule a call next? When can we, who else do we need to involve in this conversation, right? Who else do we need to get involved in this conversation, right? Actionable next steps. And then finally, you want to keep them warm from the time that you get them on the phone to the time of the close. And the way that you keep them warm, you send them articles of interest, you send them emails, holiday, wishing you blessings and joy and laughter and love, right? For the holidays. You want to send them things that you think would be helpful. You want to comment on their LinkedIn post, right? Stay engaged with them. Be a part of their community. Put yourself in their world so that they can see like, wow, okay, you do care and you stay top of mind, right? Because executives have an attention span of like a second and a half, okay? So you want to be able to stand out. All right, y'all. I hope that was helpful. If you guys want to check out my free training, I put the link down here. So victoriajen.com/training. Or go to the link in my bio. And on that training, I'm giving you my 3 secrets on how to transition from corporate to entrepreneurship with ease, even if you have only one source of financial income, right? Even if you only have one source, right? So this is great for aspiring entrepreneurs as well as new entrepreneurs. I want you to check out that free training. It's about 11 minutes, so no freaking excuses, okay? And I want you to really take the opportunity to invest in yourself. Thank you so much, Kayla, for the badge. I love my badge gang. I love when you guys support me. Thank you so much. I want you to invest in yourself this holiday season. Like I speak for myself. There are a lot of things that I promised myself at the beginning of this year that I did not follow through on, that I have to sit with. And I have to be like, all right, V, well, why didn't you? Why didn't you execute on those things? And I know I'm not alone in that. I know some of you on the live right now can relate. Like, wow, I did make all these promises to myself, especially coming out of like a crazy lockdown year. I made all these promises to myself and I only executed on one thing, or I didn't execute on anything. And that guilt You're still carrying with you. And one of the lessons that I've learned is the best way to get through that guilt and the best way for you to get over that hump is for you to execute. Is for you to do something. Is for you to just start. That is the best way for you to get out of the black hole, for you to get out of your funk, for you to stop feeling sorry for yourself, is for you to just take a step forward and just do. I get this question a lot, like what motivates me, what inspires me. And of course, there are several things that I get inspiration from, but one thing I can always guarantee and bet on when motivation is low and inspiration is low is for me to get up and do something. That could be get up and go for a walk. That could be get on a live right here and talk my shit and educate my people. That can be, calling somebody on my badassery committee and being like, look, I'm down today. You need to lift me up today. Pour into me today, darling. Right? But it's me doing versus me being, lazy and just, loathing in that guilt, getting on my couch, watching Netflix, eating my life away. Right? Because that just adds to the guilt. It just makes you feel even more guilty. So if you're somebody who, made all these promises to yourself at the beginning of this year and you find yourself in a place where you're just like, damn, I really didn't do shit. I didn't execute on anything I wanted to execute on, or you didn't execute it, to your fullest potential and you're feeling a way about it, please know that it is never too late. Like you can start right now. You can start right now. So if you're somebody who's like, oh, I want to pursue entrepreneurship. I've been thinking about entrepreneurship. I want to do my own thing. Or you just started and you're like lost in the sauce. You're feeling super overwhelmed. Please take advantage of this free training that I am offering. Okay. The link is here, or you can go to the link in my bio. Take advantage of these opportunities. If there's one thing that I cannot have sympathy for, it's for people who say a lot but don't do a lot, right? They say the most but do the least. And they come up with all these excuses as to why they're not going to do something. And it's just like, you cannot feel sorry for people like that because they literally are making their bed and sleeping in it, right? They're not choosing how they're going to shift their lives. They're choosing to just go with the flow instead of creating the flow for themselves, for their families, to break generational curses, whatever it is. And especially when somebody who's offering you something for free and you don't take advantage of the opportunity, you have to really sit with yourself. And this is about like self-awareness. It goes back to the point earlier of me saying when you committed to do all of these things at the beginning of the year and now we're here and you're like, damn, I really didn't complete everything that I wanted to complete. I didn't do what I said I was going to do. And so now you're feeling away. It's very much correlated to that. It's like you need to sit with yourself and understand your shortcomings and understand where you've been weak. Because once you're able to identify that and also just come to terms with it and not be in this illusion that it's everybody else and it's not you, or it's the pandemic, or it's the job market, or it's unemployment, all of these things that we choose to point at instead of pointing at ourselves for where we are, which is a very hard pill to swallow. Trust me, I know. Okay. It's a very hard pill to swallow. But I promise you, once you come to terms with who you are, why you are, the way that you move, you're able to really plan and get strategic and intentional about how you're going to change, around how you're going to shift that so that you're able to show up better the next time around, right? And you don't quit, right? Because you're self-aware enough to know what you need to improve upon. So that's my word for y'all. I know it's a Friday. I know I'm laying it down on you heavy, but it's because I care and I want to see us all win and I want to see us all thrive. And please know that any advice that I give you guys is because I've gone through it myself, or it's a process that I worked through myself that has worked. And so I'm sharing it with you so we can all win. My dream is to have a community of badass, thriving, making money, confident as hell, boss ass women around me. That is the dream. And if there's anything that I can do to participate in that, I'm going to do what I need to do because that's my calling. That is what God put me on this earth to do. So I'm going to step into that purpose and I'm going to step into that power. But no, even though I've come to terms with this and I've gained clarity around this, there's still growing pains associated with it because it's a huge responsibility. And it's also something that I know is an evolution of me. So that never stops. So just know that if you're somebody who's listening to me and you're just like, damn, she just seems like she has it all figured out. And I just wish I could have it figured out. I just wish I had all the answers. Please know that that's not the case. There are things in my life that I'm still trying to figure out. There is never a line. It's always like this, right? And to me, that's what makes life exciting, right? That's what makes it worth living, right? Too many people are not living, right? They're not living. They're just kind of going with the flow and just taking what comes their way. And they're not living. And therefore, if you're not living, there's no room for you to thrive. All right. So that's my testimonial for you today. Mwah, besitos. Enjoy your weekend. And I'll talk to you soon. Check out the free training. All right. All right. Bye, guys.